Welcome to the International Classroom Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gray, and today I am thrilled to have a truly remarkable guest, Skyler Carr. Skyler's journey from a passionate educator to an edtech innovator offers invaluable insights into the power of learning, the importance of innovation, and the future of education. In our conversation, Skyler shares the inspiring story of his personal and professional evolution from discovering his love for education despite its challenges to redefining learning through technology. With the upcoming rebranding of Infinity Learning to Mission.io, Skyler and his team are set to revolutionize how we engage with educational content, making learning more immersive, interactive, and impactful than ever before. Ramadan Mubarak. As we embrace this holy month of reflection and community, Smart Technologies has a special gift to help enlighten your students' learning journeys. Now, for a limited time, you can unlock the full potential of Lumio, Smart's award-winning collaborative learning platform, at an incredible 75% off. Head over to the Lumio page using the link in the show notes and use the promo code Ramadan75. I'm going to tell you more about Lumio later. Now, before we dive in, a quick reminder to all our listeners. If you find value in these conversations and want to support the show, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode. Your support helps us bring more insightful content and reach educators, innovators, and learners around the world. Now on to the episode. Skyler, thank you ever so much for joining me on the International Classroom Podcast today. You've got kind of an interesting backstory. I was doing my research about this, by the way, in terms of kind of what's led you to here. I'm interested as we start really about your personal journey and potentially then what inspired you to get into education.
Oh my goodness. I feel like there's people who were born for education and there's people who accidentally fall into the hole and can't get out and are just happy that they've ended up in such a wonderful, accepting, beautiful world. I wish I was the former, but I think the latter might be the more true story, just because I really do feel like I live this charmed, amazing life where I grew up with amazing parents, amazing family, amazing support, had incredible educators. I can really go through so many years of my life and point to educators that had unbelievable foundational impact in my life, completely changed trajectories for me. And it made me realize how much I love learning. I've always loved learning. And so when I got to college, I kind of had this weird situation where I've always wanted to be involved in education. I've always wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't want to have the job of teacher, if that makes sense. Mostly because on the other side of the aisle, I've always wanted to build something. I've always wanted to create something that would impact the lives of people I'd never meet. And so while I was in college, I was studying to be a language teacher, a Spanish teacher specifically. So that was my minor. And then my major at my university, they had just my year introduced entrepreneurship as an actual major, which at its core is kind of laughable. You're going to go to school to learn the thing that people usually drop out of school to do. But it ended up being amazing. It was an incredible course. It was more about networking, mentorship, like hands-on experience. It was amazing. But I ended up doing those two avenues where I was taking classes to become a teacher and also learning about entrepreneurship. And then I think that's where that hole appeared that I fell into naturally. The one that kind of sucked me in. Oh my goodness. Alex, it's crazy how easy it is to be pulled in when there's real change, real kids on the other end. I don't know. Like, did you feel that? Like, do you feel that at all? Because you are an active educator at a time when it's really tough to be an educator.
The thing is, when I hear people say that, and maybe I can only speak for myself, I don't find it that difficult.
Please tell me why.
And a lot of that is because I probably live a very blessed life in terms of where I educate and the facilities that I have around me to do it. And I have been very fortunate that even the schools I worked in when I was in the UK, because of my sports background, because of my rugby background, I got to work in grammar schools and boarding schools. And only when I trained to teach, so we're going back to 2006, 2005, 2006, I trained to teach in the UK. I worked in a special measures school. And I remember like first day or two in, one of the year 7 boys getting suspended because he chased a year 10 girl around the playground with a knife. That's the type of school.
Typical crush activity.
Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, how do you tell a girl that you like her?
Did anyone even chase you with a knife today? I don't even know. No one seems to like me. It's Valentine's and I didn't even get it.
I know. But those types of things that happen there, and it allowed me, it gave me some great experiences in terms of as an educator to learn from. But what you realize is that only on reflection that those things are common occurrences in schools around the world, if not worse. And so from my side, I am in Dubai in an international classroom where we've got a host of supportive parents that are present. Facilities are fantastic. Kids, by and large, want to be there, want to learn because they are surrounded by success. They are surrounded by wealth. Not that that's always a measure of success, but they see the importance of education and how to get there. So from my side of it, I love, and I've always loved teaching. I love being in the classroom. I love working with students, children of all ages, and there's parts of teaching. And that's the thing. There are parts of teaching I dislike, but actually the actual part of learning, the actual part of being with the students, designing lessons, creating, and almost I prefer the term facilitating than actually chalk and talk. That's my philosophy of education. So for me, it's always enjoyable. At the moment I've been grading exams, I've been marking, and those bits you're just like, ugh. But it's a necessity. You realize it's a means to an end, don't you? But from my side, that's why I feel I'm pretty lucky, because if I was back in the UK and we have this conversation, and I was having this conversation with someone today, funnily enough, and I was like, I don't know if I could go back and teach in England. I don't know if I'd want to go back and teach in England.
It'd be tough.
Yeah, exactly. I've 9 years now, 9 years in Dubai, and you get used to it. And so to go back there, I with a choice, I don't know if I could do it. And selfishly, I don't know if I want to put my kids in the UK education system either.
That's tough.
That's the truth.
Well, so much of that foundation and that support structure that allows you the freedom to not chalk and talk, to do the more engaging, the more hands-on, the more activities, that structure is a part of what comes with kids and parents who opted in. And that's a huge pathway. I think, you hit the nail on the head. For me, it was being in school made me realize how much I love learning and hated school. All the way from second grade. I went to a really cool school. It was a Spanish immersion school where it was bilingual. So you got to take a course. All the classes were in Spanish. Everything was going on in Spanish. It was really cool from the time you were in first grade all the way till sixth grade at this school. Everything was just Spanish. And what I was experiencing in that, for me, it wasn't hard. My mother's from Cuba. So I always had my grandparents living with us. We had a largely bilingual home. So it made me realize, okay, this process is easy. I'm not struggling like others are, where they're thrown into the deep end, not understanding what's going on from day one and having to slowly take 2 years to understand what school is. But I was also extremely hyperactive. I was kind of all the check boxes for the IEPs of ADHD, dyslexic, just pretty much everything was going on for me. And I had one of those teachers in second grade, bless her heart. She was just at the twilight of her career, wasn't ready for the ball of energy that was second grade Skyler Carr. And she actually took me out of the class, put me into special ed, because she thought that I had learning disabilities, because I was so incapable of doing things exactly the way she wanted, writing on the side of the page she wanted, sitting where I was supposed to sit, speaking when I was supposed to speak, things that a second grader is naturally still trying to get good at, especially one who's a little bit more fluent than the other kids who are still shy in the language and is more free and willing to talk to everyone, caused a lot of rifts. And that kind of created this initial framework of understanding in my mind that I don't belong here. I I'm not good enough for that class. I'm not wanted. It started to lay some really dangerous foundational beliefs in little second grade mind that I think, had it not been for some very powerful experiences after that, would have been extremely damaging. I think lifelong challenges I would have had to face. But fortunately, being outside of that class and having that course change was amazing, because I suddenly got all this one-on-one attention, all this hands-on work. My godmother came in and was like, no, this kid does not belong there. So she went and took me to get an IQ test. I got to work with like specialists so they could come to the school and throw a piece of paper down on the table and say, excuse me. I got changed classes, put into a different one after we got removed from that, and everything kind of got settled. The dust settled. And sitting in that class, sorry, this is like, you're probably going to have like 20,000 of these little random rabbit holes. But here's rabbit hole number one, Alex. I'm sitting in class. And up until this point, my whole life, Skyler Carr, that's who I've been. I always liked it because it had the double k sound. It sounded like a superhero. It was like a Clark Kent type thing. I don't know. I always was in love with it as a little kid. But I'm sitting in class and the teacher has this new kid that got put in, apparently came from the special ed class, didn't make it in the Spanish immersion program. Now she's having to take him on. She's calling the roll. And she says, Anthony Carr, and is looking right at me. And I hear Anthony Carr and I say, do I have a cousin in this class that I don't know about? This is so exciting. So I start turning around and looking around like, who's this cousin that I have? I didn't know I had a cousin my age. I was so excited. And the poor teacher is like, oh no, I have one of these kids. He doesn't even know his own name. It's going to be so tough. And she's looking at me so patient and so accepting. It's like, Anthony Carr. And all of these lights turned on. I was like, I guess that's me. I guess that's who I am. And I remember when my mom picked me up, I was like, did you know that my name is Anthony? She says, yeah, that's your first name. We've just always called you by your second name. Because apparently, Alex, my older brother just liked it more and just started calling me Skyler, and it stuck. And so I got to go an entire year as a second grader deciding who I wanted to be called, which is an incredibly powerful thing. I think that kids should all have some kind of opportunity to have where they get to decide, who am I? I tried on Anthony for a year, didn't fit, didn't like it. I don't understand why people call Anthony's Tony. Tony's not even in the name. Like, call me Honey. That's actually in there. I'll take that. But Tony, get out. No way. So I went back the next year to Skyler, but it was awesome. I got to reestablish and kind of lay my own foundation after that for, you know what, here's who I am. Here's who I want to be. I had all of these other much more powerful figures in my life telling me something very different than what this teacher was telling me. And that helped set off a course where I was a lot more perceptive, a lot more, I don't know if critical is the right word, critical of the adults that were telling me things in class. And it allowed me to start to question, not them necessarily, but question for myself to say, oh, if they're teaching me this, maybe there's more. Maybe I can find more. Maybe I can do more. And it really kicked off this love of learning. I love to learn, love exploring, asking questions, but school was always a struggle. It was tough.
And do you think that's had, obviously with what you've achieved today, do you think that's had an influence on the direction and the path that you've chosen to take?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I hate being bored. I don't know. There's some people that are just good at, Alex, are you good at being bored? Like,
no.
Okay. There's genuinely people that are just good at it. Like, give them a task, like, oh, I just like to get stuff done. Like, their love of completing a task is greater than the terribleness of the task. I'm not that way. I hate with a passion being bored. Oh, it's so hard. So education for me is the same. While I was going to college and kind of doing these things, I got so bored of just the theory in class of the foundational knowledge of how to do the practicum and all of the like student classroom management techniques and everything that was going on, that I was like, okay, I need to find something. And fortunately, a group of friends were actually trying to revive this program that was getting shut down. It was just this fun field trip after school program that we always loved as kids. And they invited me to come check it out, and they needed a teacher. And it was a teacher that got to write the curriculum and set things up. And it was amazing, Alex. I got brought on with this group. And while I was still in college, I had 100 fifth and sixth graders every single day coming in on a field trip who I would get for 3 hours. And we had a planetarium, we had classes, we had coursework that I got to design. And how do you keep 100 kids that have no personal relationship with you engaged for 3 hours when you're talking about science and space and astronomy? And that really caused me to get to dive so much deeper than I thought I'd ever get to into how do I make this just so irresistible that I can captivate kids for 3 hours that naturally have trouble just being captivated for 3 minutes. So that really started to make, I think, establish that direction, kind of that hole that I fell into. It just started to dig deeper and deeper because I just fell in love with that. And then we started to build out that program, and it became so successful that we ended up having multiple sites that were running. And that led to my first job in a school, where in that school, we were able to work with the principal to create what was kind of the foundation of what we do now, where he was so cool. He was one of the principals that would come on field trips all the time. That's what kind of built that relationship and connected us to him. And he would all the time talk about how much he loved the hands-on aspects, the exploration, the engagement, how students, every time we would do something, it was always student-led. There was always so many aspects to it. And he would say, you know, I'd love to do something like that here for my kids, but I don't have a lot of space. So we kind of went and walked around the school, and he had a ball closet that was not being used. It was a pretty big ball closet, like about a bedroom-sized ball closet. And we said, well, can we use this? And he said, yeah, let's try. And this principal was so cool. He would be in there working with us, and we turned, Alex, this ball closet into a futuristic spaceship. We put TV on the wall. We put in LED lights. We put in a smoke machine and a rumbler on the ground to make it feel like it was vibrating. We built a platform to hide cables and put more lighting in. We even put in a pocket door with a hidden little like a compartment where you could secretly reach around the wall and pull it to make it feel like it was an automatic door when kids would walk up and they'd lose their minds because it felt like this futuristic, amazing thing. And we would throw the kids in there, give them a scenario, some standard that they're trying to solve, but put it into a story. And they would have to, on their own, solve problems and figure out how to really accomplish tasks together on their own as we watch them on a little webcam and talk to them with a little microphone and a voice changer. Like you can see in my life, just that desire to make things more meaningful, more engaging, it's like a snowball, honestly, Alex. And I don't know if it's ever going to stop. It's out of control.
Well, it's kind of led from one thing to another thing to currently what you do today, which we've yet to really touch upon.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are curious, you know, Skyler. I'm going to call you Honey. I don't want to call you Skyler for this. I just want to call you Honey.
Alex, that's everything I've been trying to get to in my life. And I'm not sure I'm ready to peak this early.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll build up to it.
Okay.
What is it you do today?
So the child in me also loves the fact that you just said doo-doo. That
I knew that was I knew that was
Alex, I told you, we're not going to let anything slide today. So first off, I love Honey. I love the fact that you said doo-doo before I did, because it inevitably was going to come out. So today,
there's another joke there about doo-doo coming out, by the way. You get it?
You totally beat me to it. Okay, so that's Skyler 1, Alex 1. We're still tied. Yeah. We'll see who comes out on top. Well played. Touche, my good friend. So Alex, where we are right now is we're working on this technology. It's called Mission.io. And really what it had its inception in is just getting to work with this principal in this school, having that chance to work with kids from kindergarten through 9th grade. It was kind of a unique group of students that we got to work with. We got to experiment and research and really come to understand how we can take this experience that really started for us just as things that we did as kids, as field trips we went on, as activities that teachers did. And we just kept building and expanding and experimenting on this until we got it to a form that we said, this is special. We can really take concepts that the kids are struggling or just not engaged with, and we can apply it in a way that gets them to let us push them further than they normally let themselves be pushed. And as we built this with the students that we were working with, it started to grow and expand throughout the school. And then it spread from that school to 8 schools, and then 30 schools, and then 100 schools, and then 300 schools, and 500 schools. And it's been so exciting because we have never taken venture capital funding yet. We have totally been able to self-fund this just by working directly with those schools that wanted to partner with us, or through grants, which has helped us maintain a research focus, which we're so excited about. And what it is it's just a collaborative game that the kids get to play together as an entire class. There's no student sitting by themselves staring at a computer screen. What this is the entire class taking on a standards-based challenge together. And as they take on this challenge, our technology is actually able to assess them as they use their knowledge, as they practice key skills that are facilitated by the game. And so what you typically see is you turn it on, kids all connect with their devices, they're all given different jobs and different roles, and it'll give them a briefing. And this briefing is always some big epic scale scenario where we go into outer space or into the human body back in time. And the students have to just understand this is the context, this is the scenario. Once you're done with that briefing, it's up to you. We then present them with opportunities to gather data, to analyze information, to look at charts, look at graphs. This is not an escape room. There's no single piece of data that's going to lead them to the solution. It really is this historical data, this firsthand testimonial, these charts, this simulation. How do you create a complete picture with this? And then how do you either choose the best course of action or create your own solution? And throughout that entire experience, we have created technology that is measuring their behaviors, assessing them, watching how they move, how they respond to different inputs, different impulses, different criteria, different data. And we're able to generate a comprehensive report that for us is kind of the pivotal thing that we feel the world needs right now, which is something that's more geared towards the 21st century. We always joke that we're trying to drag the classroom into the 21st century, whether it wants to come quietly or not. And so this process is, how do we really target those skills that everyone calls essential, critical skills, 21st century skills, durable skills, and then actually give measurements, give real data to support how we're progressing and make kids aware of their own potential and their own ability within those areas that, like, if we really want to call them essential skills, then we should maybe consider measuring them. I think that'd be my argument.
I agree. And you're not the first person to say it to me either. And everyone has a different take on it in terms of skills, essential skills, critical skills, 21st century skills. When anyone ever says 21st century skills to me, I always go, that's great. What were the 20th century skills? Because it doesn't exist. In literature, There is no such thing as 20th century skills. So it sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic. So let's play devil's advocate in terms of me as a traditionalist, hypothetically. As a traditional teacher, I'm looking at this going, sorry, I don't see the value in students just playing games. Like, what would you say to convince me otherwise?
Oh, Alex, I love this. All right. Well, Mr. Devil, you're much more handsome than I thought you'd be. But that makes sense.
Luring you in, that's why.
But you have exactly the accent. Why does the British accent make such a good Bond villain?
I really don't know. And it's interesting, actually, because we were watching a film last night that had Tom Ellison, who also played Lucifer in the Netflix series. Well, ended up on Netflix. Again, British accent, very British, very properly spoken British, playing the devil. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. We had this argument yesterday with one of my lead education people. We were talking about one of our characters who's like this corporate, brilliant billionaire. And he has a Southern accent, which is interesting. And I was talking to her. I was like, I don't understand. Like the Colonel from KFC.
He's kind of a little bit withheld, but he likes to really draw things out as he's trying to tell you his evil plans. And I don't know, it's this weird, it doesn't work. And then I was thinking about it, and we tried on just a British accent. I was like, okay, so much better. he suddenly was just evil. It was great. You totally understood where he came from. You weren't wondering where the fried chicken was. Exactly.
I don't know.
It was.
I don't know what it is about it.
Next podcast, we'll unpack that one.
Yeah, maybe the viewers can help us out with this in terms of, do I have a maniacal, like Lucifer-esque accent? Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. There we go. I'm obviously doing the wrong thing.
I'm very interested. Yeah, I wonder if what viewers are going to say, because it's either you're like brilliant narrator of pivotal documentaries, or you're evil James Bond villain. There's no in between for anyone that I've met so far.
I'll go with that one.
Okay.
I'll go with that one.
All right.
But yeah.
So back to the question.
Back to answering my devilish question.
Yes, your devilish question. So I'm going to come at this a little bit differently. And I'm going to say that I think one of the biggest issues that causes actually an argument that I don't fully disagree with, honestly, is gamification has ruined education. Okay, that's a strong statement.
Oh, it's strong. It's so strong.
Strong statement. Quote me on that, and please quote me out of context. Okay, just put that quote without any explanation.
That's going to be the thumbnail. The thumbnail quote will be this.
And it makes So here's the deal. All right, let me paint you a picture with my imagination brush. Gamification is so misunderstood, so misinterpreted. And if you think about it, it makes sense because there's such a huge spectrum of just games. If you just think about video games, you've got Flappy Bird that was coded. Do you remember Flappy Bird? Did you ever play that?
No. Angry Birds was the most I got to.
Okay, Angry Birds isn't a bad one. Flappy Bird was ridiculous and so dumb. It was coded by a teenager in 2 days. And it actually got taken out of the App Store because it was just so ridiculous and so over downloaded. And you would just tap a screen and a bird would fly through these little spaces. Okay, that's considered a game. And then you also have something else that's considered the game, which is like Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm playing that right now. I'm obsessed. It's so fun. And it has its own lore, its own backstory, its own characters. You can cook meals. You can explore an open world. It has a beautiful soundtrack. It took 300 people almost 5 years to build. And guess what? They're both games. Okay. And so when we think of how that transitions, that understanding and that richness of what games can be and what they can mean, it's no wonder. Because if you look at all the games in education, the majority are terrible. So many of the new ones that I see people getting excited about are focused on, hey, play this game and then answer this question, and then play more game and answer the question. And all we're teaching kids is to hate questions because they want to get back to the game. Or there's a lot of others that I still use and have great niche moments like Kahoot or Blooket that are fantastic for their purpose, but are so grossly overutilized that we're just training kids to answer questions quickly. We're not teaching them to think. And then we start to think, if we just add points, if we just make it competitive, it's gamified. And I think, no, that is just competified. That's all it is. Did we make up a word just barely?
Maybe it's just how you said it.
Maybe it was. If not, I'm going to trademark it really quick. We are not gamifying. We are competitifying our class time and our lessons. And that's where I get so frustrated. Because when you think of true gamification, it's all about, for us, it's actually, there's 6 points. We just have 6 points when we think about to successfully gamify.
So let me tell you about Lumio, the award-winning collaborative learning platform, now available at an incredible 75% off. Now with Lumio, you'll unlock a world of interactive lessons, dynamic activities, and real-time assessments that make every class session an adventure. You can craft engaging quizzes and polls and games that captivate students' minds and foster true understanding. But Lumio isn't just about fun and games. It offers virtual workspaces for seamless collaboration, ensuring your students can work together creatively regardless of their location. And with seamless integration into tools like Google Classroom and Microsoft Teams, transitioning to Lumio is an absolute breeze. Now, prioritizing your peace of mind, Lumio safeguards student data through full compliance with the General Data Protection Regulation, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's an absolute digital fortress for privacy. So this Ramadan, embrace the future of education by signing up for Lumio and use the code Ramadan75 at checkout to unlock boundless learning possibilities at an unbeatable price. Back to the episode.
First, it's role and identity. That's one of the most important ones, is you need to give the kids a feeling of knowing who they are, making them feel like they belong. So for us, whenever the kids get in, because we've got 30 kids playing this at once, it's critical, we actually assign them to teams. And they sit with those teams. And not only gives them a community of support, but it gives them purpose. They say, I'm the command team, or I'm on the engineering team. And that role and identity helps pull them in, helps give them responsibility over what's going to be presented. The next item is they have to have clear goals. A clear goal is you're going to solve this problem. You're going to do this. They just need to understand what success looks like. The third is clear boundaries. In a game that's usually pretty straightforward, you have controller, you know where you can go, you know what abilities your character has, you know where the limits of the map are. In the classroom, it's sometimes easy to lose sight of that, and it makes kids feel lost. And if a kid ever feels lost, it's very easy for them to just opt out. Just mentally say, this isn't for me, I'm gonna let someone else do this, because especially in a collaborative setting, it's easy to let someone else take over. So you can never let them feel lost. They need to understand those boundaries. Then we can get to points. Okay, that's our fourth point usually. We can get to the points. We can get to incentives. But for us, it's not about just motivating them to do things. It's actually more about validating proper behaviors. We only reward points when they do something that we want to affirm and say, this was proper behavior, this was good, seek to do more of this. Lost my light. All right. Then the fourth was points. This is great. I cannot believe I'm getting these all out like on the fly when you put me on the spot.
You remembered them well, yeah.
So far, we're doing great.
No pressure, 2 to go.
2 to go. The fifth is they have to be able to fail. You need failure. Games, video games especially, I think are some of the best tools we have to teach kids how to fail effectively. As soon as kids ever discover that they don't need to try, they stop trying. Yeah. And failure is such a powerful tool to help motivate that desire to continue. And then the last one, which of course now is because you put me on the spot. Alex, I'm just kidding. All right, here we go. I got it. Oh. The sixth one, final one, is epic scale. Okay. You have to make it more exciting, make it more meaningful. Give it some like juice, give it some like something that's just not normal life. Because as soon as the kids feel like it's just more school, they're going to approach it with the same attitude they approach school. But if you make it feel like not school, if you can elevate it just enough that they enter into a mental framework that's just slightly different, a different paradigm, then they will behave so much differently. I would do this all the time with activity. There's this one activity I loved that I would apply these to. And this is kind of where we discovered this when we were doing a lot of those field trip type things. And then I started doing this with just separate classes to experiment. There's a popular activity for STEM teachers, Lego bridge building activity.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done this with kids.
No, I haven't, but I know of it.
Okay. So it's awesome because it's simple and it scales for every grade. You just give the kids a team and you tell them to build a bridge. It has to span a certain distance. Really great activity. When we would do just that activity, it was great. The kids love it because they love Lego. Super simple, easy to be successful on, easy to feel like they're engaged. But when we would apply these 6 points to that, like challenge ourselves, we just make a few key changes. So instead of just spanning some random distance, what I would do with a couple of these classes is I would actually build a river with paper. I just tape pieces of paper together and draw a river. And then I would put random pieces of paper to make it look like it was like there's trees and there's flowers over here and then there's a mountain. It was terrible. All right. It's as bad as you can picture. It was probably much worse. It was so bad. But then I would assign the kids to a specific color of Lego and a specific team. And then I would assign them to a specific section of river where they would suddenly be like, okay, I know my location. I know who I am. I know my team. And then we've got this color. It starts to build some of that location, some of that identity in that role. And then I would tell them, your goal is to build a bridge that spans whatever section of the river you choose. You have 30 minutes to do it, because at the end of 30 minutes, there's a volcano that's going to explode, and every living creature still on this side of the river is probably not going to survive. So in 30 minutes, we have to span the river with a bridge for your section, and it has to be able to hold a shot put. And so we borrowed a shot put, and we would set it on top of the bridge, and we'd see if it could hold. What was so fascinating is we gave them role and identity, clear goals, clear objectives, clear boundaries. We had epic scale with the volcano. We allowed them to fail if the thing went on and it broke it. We'd allow them to go back and try again as we went through the others. All of those metrics were hit. And the difference, Alex, was so powerful because we were doing the same physical activity of connecting Lego pieces to build a bridge. But the experience the students were having was completely different, because instead of just achieving the goal and going for the primary outcome of having a bridge, they started to really think. You'd see them turn to each other and ask questions like, hey, how do you think we could connect? Or how do you think we could raise it up to go over this area? Or how do we strengthen the middle? They would start to go through metacognitive processes of really questioning, what have I built before? What have we done? Is this going to work? They started to have transdisciplinary moments where they would look at other things they've done in the past. They start connecting different skill sets together in that moment. Doing the same physical activity produced two completely different experiences. So this is my very long-winded response to the devil. And the reason is I was distracting you, because the more time you spend with me, the less time you spend ruining people's lives out there. Satan.
That's my middle name. No, didn't see that. That's like it's like the Usual Suspects. Have you seen that film? That twist, just that twist.
Yes, that was the twist. That was the twist. I'm a hero.
Kaiser's so safe.
I can't help it. So that was my hero moment, and my response is honestly, if you don't feel this is
gamification's wrong. That's the response.
Gamification. The response is, honestly, teacher, if this is not for you, it's not for you. We did not build this for everyone. But if you understand what it is you want your students to achieve, if you want them to flex muscles that they're going to be needing more in the future than just a pile of information that's to be memorized, then we need to give them the chance to exercise and flex those muscles. We need to practice those things. And through this kind of gamified format, I have found better than anything else, it gets students to a state of mind where they are willing to stretch further than they would normally let themselves be stretched.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It was interesting today, like someone asked me, it's like, why'd you do this podcast? It's like, you're not getting anything from it. Why'd you do it? And I had to sit and think about it. And the answer I gave was a lot of it because of the conversations like this, but the conversations I get to have with people all around the world who talk about these things I have no idea about. And if I stayed within my comfort zone, stayed in my lane, as it were, then I would never find out about. And the whole idea of gamification, gamified learning, game-based learning, whichever phrase you choose to use with it, loads of people have said to me, or have been very fortunate to listen to, knowledgeable people talk about what they know. You are one in that example. And it's got to a point with me where I've tried this in my lessons as well. And I'm using AI to help me because I don't have a rich knowledge base myself. So I'm using AI to ideate and create. And I've seen it with my students that, yeah, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. And they do enjoy it. They are more engaged. They are using different skills, as it were, to approach things. That's not just about what can you regurgitate. And we're talking a lot more about application. Just show me what you can do. Show me how you can apply it. It's not just about, it's not just about learning per se now. It's about application of learning. And my mind has got to this point now when we're talking about games, like we've just got the amazing Spider-Man 2 game So me and my daughter went half on it. She's only 10. I still made her pay half to get this game because she also wanted it. I was like, will you pay half? I'll pay half. It wasn't. That's how it goes. And
I have so much to learn from you in parenting. That needs to be its own podcast.
That's a separate one. But the point is, I've been playing through Spider-Man 2 for like 2 days. And in my mind, I'm going, right, this is how a game works. This is how I could use this in education. This is how I could use it in my lessons. And like thinking about how the structure of this game, which I'm meant to be enjoying, I can go, I wonder how the framework of this can be applied to X. And it's because it's something that isn't taught in typical teacher training. It's not one of those things that is talked about gamified learning, game-based learning, gamification, whichever one you choose. It's like, it's only when you actually stop and speak to individuals who know about this, you think, geez, actually, there's so much more to it and it could be used for it. It's ruined Spider-Man for me, put it that way. So I'm looking at going, because there's so much, I don't ruin it, but there's all these games you're talking about. There's so much more to it in terms of there's a character. And as you go through and you complete different tasks, you upskill yourself and you get different points. And with those different points, you can change your suit style. You could upgrade your skill. You can change your attacks, your defense, your focus, the tech that you use with it. And then obviously as you move through the city, more of the map gets bigger and bigger. And then you get different villains. And so you need to develop different fighting skills and it keeps you hooked. And what you realize is all along the line is actually my skills with doing this have really improved. And then the crazy thing was I was going through it and I'm like, right, I'm at this fairground and all of a sudden I've got to be a DJ and I'm trying to press buttons in the right way and going up and down on the joysticks to the beat of some music that has nothing at all to do with sport. But it's thrown that in there because it's then that hook and engagement and an idea of brevity that comes into the game. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And you kind of think, if you tied that into how gamification and project-based learning and real-world application of things, even to an nth degree, it's like, learning would be so much more fun. I mean, it's still challenging, and there's ways and means of going out to learn about doing it. But, I think a lot more, the key thing here is a lot more people are talking about it and a lot more people know about it, don't they? And I think if that's our starting point, then, we're doing something right. The more people that know about it, the more people that are talking about it, not ruining games for people, then we're on the right lines with everything, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at your experience. If someone would have, or if your daughter would have come to you and been like, hey, can we go get this new game? You get to be a DJ.
Yeah.
There's no way you would have signed on for that. But the fact that it came up unexpectedly and you were in a mental state where you're like, yeah, let's go. I'll DJ. I'm going to crush this. You took it. Say, like, we have the same approach with students. If we ask them, hey, do you want to analyze 8 different pieces of data and compare them to try to figure out the historical readings behind why there's landslides happening on this planet and try to figure out how to stop it? No way any student's going to opt in on that. But if I can set the stage with this exciting story, these visuals that show these landslides about to wipe out this village and their barriers that are all struggling to stay up and we're right at the edge. Suddenly when I start to present data, they're in, they're reading, they're going through that. That's why we've always said that our product, our platform is not the game. The game for us is a vehicle to achieve specific outcomes. And a lot of those outcomes are what we can get to happen between the students, one another, between the student and themselves, where they're willing to read more, push more, review more, think more. That's what we want. Because just like you said, honestly, that's why I say this isn't for everyone, is a teacher can just do this themselves. If they have the energy and the time, unfortunately, that's a very rare thing to have, both energy and time, which is why I think this has grown as quickly as it has, is that we just are happy to take that off the plate for teachers and then provide data, actionable data to help move the needle more for these kids and these things that we all believe and know are effective. We want to be able to show and actually measure how effective they can be.
So you talked about the growth in this now. So I'm going to sort of change direction a little bit with the question I'm going to ask you next. So as someone who is, I'm going to use the word young and influential leader in the edtech space at the moment, like, how are you coping with the sort of the pressure and expectations that come along with that?
And when you say young, and with pressures and expectations.
Like a young 32-year-old is what I'd say. I mean, I'm kind of guessing.
That's nice. I'll take it.
You take that. I mean, you did tell me earlier you have 4 children, so
my recent shave took a couple years off. That's fantastic. Or it's the dramatic lighting that's hiding the bags under my eyes a little bit.
No, mine's too well lit. I'm like, gee, no. But I think in terms of education, you're still young. You're still young.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But obviously having a huge influence on the edtech industry, and and with that there comes certain pressures and there comes certain expectations in terms of from you're lucky at the moment, like you don't have the financial backers that are maybe in the board members that are demanding certain shares or got to hit certain figures, but there are going to be self-imposed pressures or pressures from schools and even self-driven expectations and teacher expectations that come with that. I mean, how are you managing that right now in terms of where you're at with the company? What sort of strategies are you utilizing to kind of keep yourself moving forward and manage those types of pressures that do come along with being, self-employed?
Alex, you're good at podcasting. People should listen to you. What a deep question.
Are you just trying to bide time while you think of your answer there?
You might have just earned yourself a follower. No, that was sincere. That was a really good deep diving question that I've never been asked. I'll give you the first things that come to mind. One is probably one of the scariest experiences I've had in recent life, which was being offered a term sheet from an investor that was a 7-figure term sheet, being able to picture all the things that was going to enable us to do, all of these amazing plans and desires that we have, all of our goals, all of these opportunities, and recognizing there was nothing wrong with the investors. They're actually still dear friends. Like, I really love them, rely on them. They've been so supportive. They actually were part of the reason that they were really talking to us openly and saying, you need to understand what it is you want and what switches you're going to flip. Because when you're in the world of education and venture capital and capital raising, there's a reality of people don't really realize is so many people celebrate fundraising as if hey, we just raised, X million dollars. Yeah. And I'm like, why are you celebrating? That is not a finish line. You just started an exhausting sprint, which is in 2 to 3 years, you have to have at least doubled in size in order to get return that's valid of what these people just put in, or will merit follow-on funding. When you run out of money, you need, you're getting money that you're expected to spend in 2 to 3 years. And that creates an entirely different focus, an entirely different drive, an entirely different set of values and metrics. And that was largely where we were looking at that and saying, we're not ready to focus solely on that yet. We know there's so much that we still need to learn, so much that we need to research, so much that we need to really do, because we're pioneering an entirely new way to look at the way that we analyze student learning by encapsulating their skills, the things that we feel are more impactful than any set of information they know, especially in the age of AI, where we can look up and find any information that we want immediately. We need more human skills. And we need a way to measure that. We need a way to show kids that throughout that course. And that was terrifying, Alex, to walk away from. And it was terrifying to look my wife in the eye and tell her that I had walked away from that. But it's been so good, because we've been so fortunate to be able to have access to grants and research organizations that have backed us. We're so grateful that the growth, we feel like, has not suffered in any way, because that focus on true outcomes, that focus on building something that works and that matters, I think has made it grow more authentically and spread in a way that's been really meaningful for us. So in terms of those pressures, they're real and they're huge, but there's a huge value in, of course, being in education. There's a purpose-driven factor that really helps unlock a part of ourselves that makes us willing to do those extra hours, to push that extra limit, and to really try to overcome a lot of the systematic things in education that really push against something like this thriving immediately. Kind of those barriers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Because again, people often see just the end product, not the swan-like or the duck-like crazy feet that are paddling underwater and the calmness on the surface, as it were. It was interesting you mentioned that, and obviously some of the things that you talked about earlier when you say, look, this isn't for everyone. And within that, when you are developing this product and building a product and building a company and wanting teachers and educators and institutions to buy into it, there's going to be criticisms, there's going to be feedback, and at the same time, there's going to be elements of rejection. So how do you go about handling those?
Oh man, I still remember, I think we were like still very early on. We were at a point, Alex, where I think we had 28 schools. Okay. So it was sizable, but I still knew the names of every single school, every single principal, and every single core teacher user in my head. And I would sit in my bed at night as I was trying to fall asleep, and I would go through my head for some reason and count and like go through their names. They still are so precious to me because they're the ones that believed in us early on. I mean, back in those days, Alex, we would take USB drives, and we had 30 USB drives, and we would go through, and whenever we needed to do an update, we couldn't afford and didn't know how at that time to build it online. So we built it as a physical software, and I would go to every single computer and plug in a USB, copy the new files in, go pull it out. And that was how we updated. We'd go visit 30 schools and just do all the updates. We got to have such a close relationship with them that on one side, it was incredibly valuable because it built in us a customer focus that is a part of our DNA of being so obsessed with, is this working for people on the front lines? We don't want it to just work on paper. We need to know that when you turn this on for your students, you saw something happen that you've never seen before. And so because of that close connection early on, it was huge. But it also, to answer your question, it led to some of the most painful breakups in the world. Every single time a school had like a principal change where a new principal came in and did budget changes, which just inevitably happens. It's a natural part of a lot of changes. And they would contact us to say they weren't going to renew. It felt like a piece of our heart was being ripped out because we had such a great connection. We knew some of their students' names because we'd been in the schools and we'd help troubleshoot, and the kids would come up and be like, hey, are you those people from the mission thing? And we'd be like, yeah. And they'd ask for autographs, and they'd give us pieces of paper they designed of characters. Like, can you put this character in a mission? And it was such a unique experience that losing them felt like we were losing a dear friend. And as painful as it was, I really am grateful because even up to, nearly 500 schools now, we still have that same reaction when schools don't renew. Like, we still have that same excitement when schools join. We still have that same desire to really build something that works for them and to be connected to that operation and have that like obsession with how they're doing that I hope we never lose.
Oh, amazing. So you mentioned there, obviously, the massive jump. You've gone from 28 originally to 500 schools. And it kind of brings me to my next question in terms of how you personally define success and happiness and how you go about measuring them.
So how I define happiness is much different than what I thought it would be. Because when you're growing up, I still remember, when you were growing up, did they ever do those career like quizzes where you fill out a quiz and it tells you what job you should have?
No, not when, maybe I'm showing my age, not when I was at school. No, they came in sort of later. So after I'd left.
Okay. So you've seen them and you're familiar.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I don't know if it's a part of just the American process or just our obsession with capitalism. But what was so fascinating is you do these quizzes and it would tell you what job you wanted. And then it would always give you the salary range of that job. And I remember looking at this and saying, well, if that's my key indicator, if that's the like value statement, that's the first thing you put on here after I filled out this quiz and you're trying to tell me what job I should have, then just tell me what the highest one of those is.
Yeah.
And that's where I would always hear about like, well, what about like the Bill Gates people and the Warren Buffett and like all those, like, what's that job? I want that job if that's the one I'm supposed to care about. So I remember growing up, I was always like, yeah, I want to start a business. I want to be the boss. I want to do that. And then as I started to like build businesses as a teenager, I started like a t-shirt company. And then I started a narration company. And then we started a photo booth company. Like we did all these really fun just things to learn about what it was like to create a product and to build these things. And we made money. And I started to learn in that process how much I loved the building more than the money, actually. The money was absolutely great and fun, but it led to more building. That's what was so exciting about that. And that's what led to me realizing I want to build things that will impact the lives of people I'll never meet. That's where that became a big part for me. And then I remember I think we were 5 or 6 years into like the total process. So our first couple of years were just research. And then in 2020, we opened it up to the public. And it was shortly after that we had our big surge. And that's when I was kind of cleaning out a box, and I found an old journal with goals that I'd written as a teenager. And Alex, did you ever like do one of those, like, were you ever into like vision board or like goal metrics as a kid?
Very much. I probably kind of still am a little bit.
Okay. I literally have Post-it notes here that are like my pseudo vision boards. I still have. But have you ever run into one from when you were younger?
Yes, I have. Thanks to my wife. But yeah.
Overall, was it funny? Were you embarrassed, or were you proud of younger self you?
It was more embarrassing and funny that I got nowhere near it.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah. But it's
impressed with the optimism of younger Alex.
Yeah, that's it. In terms of, I think I've always been the same. I've always enjoyed the journey. I've always enjoyed the planning and that's me. I love planning and getting kind of doing it, but seeing something through, as in having the discipline to commit to and form habits that will allow those things to happen, has never, I think, in younger Alex, been something that was that successful. It was idea, next idea, plan. And I enjoyed the planning. And to some extent, I still am a little bit like that today. I enjoy planning things. I enjoy coming up with ideas and plans. And I'm trying to get more about how do I enjoy the journey and the actual acquiring of characteristics and information and learning new things along that way. And it's taken years to get to that point for me, in terms of then, I suppose, similar to how I define my own success, or what I define success as. And I think a lot of educators get to a point where you define success as, is it the credentials I've got, or is it the title I have to my name? And I've, for the past probably 5-6 years, have always been aspiring to an assistant head, because that will get me to deputy head and headship. And it's like, but why? And that was the question. Why do I want those things? Because it's a measure of success. I want to be. And it's only when you stop and reflect on what success really is. It's like, I can still be successful without those titles to my name. I can still have the impact that I desire to have without those things. That for me was a massive turning point, probably in the last 2 years.
I love that. You said it so much better than I did. So now it's pointless that I even try to wrap this up, because the journey, the process, is what has actually surprised me the most. I had so many of those pointless expected endpoints on there of like, be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 and have like own real estate and be the CEO of a company. And I had all those things, and I was going through and laughing and kind of embarrassed by a few of them, because as I was looking at my goals then that I had and realizing what was giving me joy, it was so much different than any of those. So much that I had actually stopped. I had completely devalued some of those in my mind. Like, I have no interest in real estate. I have this weird mental shift that I went through where I was like, so many people can't afford their own first home. Why should I be aspiring to get multiple homes? That's just my own personal thing. So I was like, I kind of just let go of that dream. freely, just let it go. I'm like, other people can go into that world. I have family that do that. Great, go for it. It's not for me. The millionaire by the time I'm 30, I'm like, why? Like, I don't want to stop working. Like, I love what I'm doing. I love creating things. I've technically been an illiquid millionaire just because of the value of like the company and the stock, but which is laughable because I've always paid myself as little as I possibly could in order to hire more people, much to the dismay of my wife and family. And so there's like these things that I've seen offset and change. But then I started to recognize in the process of being a part of an organization that we've gotten to build from the ground up, especially in getting to hire and attract talent and team members, that we got to choose. And we said, I want to work with you. And we hired them. There's something really special about the culture that's created by something like that when you take that very seriously. Because even like Valentine's Day, one of our team members, she posted like, hey, when I was a teacher, we used to do this thing called paper hugs, where I would have everyone write a reason that they love someone. Like, what do I love about you? And then we would give it to the kids. And whenever they're having a tough day, they can look at it. And she's like, so if anyone wants to, go ahead and just fill out this form I created. I'm just going to distribute these. I'm going to do it on my own time. And I was like, this is cool. So I went and wrote out some notes for people of just like what I'm amazed by or what they do. Nearly every single person on the team, Alex, went through and filled this out and said these awesome heartfelt notes to every single person. And so we all started getting these awesome letters in the mornings that she would kind of start to send out. It was really cool. Even beyond that, like seeing the sense of humor when I'm getting teased in like chats when I'm not even a part of, where people are like poking fun and making jokes or putting my head on some character that looks ridiculous or our inside joke.
I can't believe they would do that to you.
How dare they? Yeah, we immediately let them go. And then our company had so much joy. No, it's those things that I found, like that personality of an organization, the fact that we're building something that the people that work with us are proud of, that's what they tell people when they go to Christmas dinner or like meet up with family and they're like, hey, what do you do? And they are excited about the thing that they do. Has any of those dumb goals I did as a teenager, I would like are completely outshined now by so much more of exactly what you said, the process, the journey, the things that I really hope I don't miss because I would become too fixated on some end goal, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. So with that in mind, what are some of the goals or dreams that you've not yet achieved that you would like to?
Oh man, that's a great one. Currently right now, what's on my vision board right here in front of me is 10x. And there's a lot of talk about 10x. It's a really popular phrase. There's a lot of books about it. For us, we actually talked about this as a team of what 10x means for us. And I loved that as we wrote out what that means for us, it was like halfway down the page when it finally got to money, because above that, it was 10x the number of kids that we're able to impact. Like we want to raise a generation of kids that we can awaken to their own potential, that don't just go through school building an identity around what they're told or what they see or who they're around, but really starting to look inside themselves and recognize what are their talents, what are their gifts, how can they build on and develop those regardless of whatever circumstance they find themselves in. That's what we want to do. And we want to be able to reach more people to do that. We wanted to build, 10x as many resources for teachers. We wanted to make it 10 times as easy to use. We wanted to make it like we went through all of these aspects of like what 10x means to us. And we started to really challenge ourselves. And it's been a really fun journey because in terms of like goals for us, a goal that doesn't inform your everyday work is a pointless goal and a waste of time. So we've tried to work with all of our team members to say, when you set a goal of 10x, every day that you're working, ask yourself if this thing is getting me closer to that. And if it's not, be willing to let go, even if it feels important, even if you're staying busy, because there's a huge difference between being busy and being effective. And especially effective in a sense of working towards an actual articulated goal. And I find myself all the time doing something that last year would have been a huge, important task. And now realizing this is not it. I need to shift gears. I need to be doing something totally different. So for us, it really is just, we're building something no one's ever built before. There's not an instruction manual for it. So we have to make decisions. Hopefully they're educated ones. We have to take risks. We're making a lot of mistakes along the way, but hopefully we make a lot of successes that outweigh those. But largely, I'm still trying to discover this new identity for myself, because a lot of these discoveries I'm making about what I love in the process are new. And it's kind of reshaping my own attitudes towards the entire process.
It's the new honey.
It is. The honey doo doo. That's for all the listeners, that is a full circle reference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a powerful thing in comedy. It's callback.
I'm trying to, the honey doo doo. That's kind of like a name your 7-year-old child would give you, or sort of as a phrase, wouldn't it? It's a cereal. Actually, I wouldn't even eat that as a cereal.
Oh, definitely don't eat that one. Can I tell you my favorite nickname I recently got?
Please do.
From my 6-year-old, actually. And so we moved from the US and we're living in Geneva, Switzerland right now, largely because my wife is from Geneva and her family's here, and
beautiful part of the world. Yeah.
Gorgeous. So, I guess, pull my arm. I'll sacrifice and go live over there. But largely it was, I got to live with my grandparents. I got to build that relationship. I got to learn how to communicate with them. It was something that was foundational because they were the only set of grandparents I had alive when I was born. And I wanted to make sure that my kids had that chance to build that relationship with their grandparents while they're still healthy, while they still have energy. And so we just said, well, they're young enough that they'll either forgive us someday or just be okay with the adventure. And so we packed everyone up. We made the decision in just a couple of weeks. And we put them in public school. We found a place 2 blocks from my in-laws. And it's been amazing. I've learned so much about how different cultural education systems are. It had its own values on that side. But now being here, the kids are learning French. They're going through this process. And my 6-year-old, Alex, she came understanding a very, very minimal bit, but not speaking anything. And within 5 months, she is the French girl in our house. Like, she wears berets. She literally eats baguettes every day. Like, she's your stereotypical, like what you'd imagine in a cartoon. She just speaks French nonstop. She even sleep talks in French. And she stopped calling me dad, but she didn't really know what you call like parents or something. Okay. So she started calling me papaya.
Okay.
Which is strangely beautiful. And I love it. And then the other kids started to catch on. And so I've randomly become papaya to my children. And if they ever stop calling me papaya, I will actually no longer have children, because I will just disown them, because I've actually fallen in love so much with it. Yeah. It's a non-starter.
My eldest, she's 10, has no filter. And before Christmas, just called me the Jolly Fat Man. Yeah, she's just like a dagger.
Isn't it crazy?
That.
I totally get what you're saying. I got exotic, delicious fruit. And you can see, yours is similar, I guess.
I've got one stuck here. Come here. There's one of them.
Oh, coworkers. I love this. Hello.
You've got headphones in. Say hello.
I'll wave dramatically so that she can see me.
Yeah. His name's Honey.
He said Skyler.
I know, but really we call him Honey. What can I do for you?
We ordered dinner because Mom was really hungry.
That's fine. We won't be too much.
We're watching Matilda.
Oh, nice. All right, you go enjoy. I'll see you in a little bit.
Love you.
See you soon. Close the door for me. Thank you. Yeah, that's happens every time. It's always this one. You're always in the interruption.
Oh, I love it. I love to know I'm not the only one. For me, I'm always saying, excuse me 1 second. One of my coworkers is asking a question. And then inevitably it's usually my 4-year-old is the one.
Coworker. Don't call her. It makes her feel like she's on the same level as me. No. No.
You worked hard to be where you're at.
Yeah, you've done nothing apart. Yeah, I'll give you an example today. So I was catching up. This is the great thing. So a bit of not often a rant. A rant's not the right word. I had a little bit of a professional outburst on LinkedIn yesterday. And just in terms of how the platform is going and how people are interacting on LinkedIn. And it seems like I think a few people are probably feeling the same way about it in terms of it's a professional platform, and be courteous and respectful and recognize that people behind the screen and behind that are living their own lives and doing their best to be, for my sense, professional family man and running all these different things as a one-man band. And it resonated with a lot of people. And this morning, funnily enough, someone I know through LinkedIn is in Dubai, and I've obviously conversed with him a few times. We've been out for coffee, and it's like, this is the good thing about LinkedIn. You know, you go out, you can connect with people, and you can do these wonderful things and really make this professional learning network, and just a great thing. So we went to a coffee shop, and I took both the girls with me. We're on half term. And normally the coffee shops, they're okay where they get to do stuff. And we go in, and it's Dubai. It's safe. We're sat outside. I give the kids, give the children my card, because it's safe, and that's generally what they're doing. They're used to it, and I trust them. And they come back with their sort of drinks and some donuts, perfectly respectable, some water for me. But equates to about general coffee shop prices. It's 100 dirham. So for the unit, it's about 20 pounds. Whatever that converts to in euros or
like
francs
30 euros.
Or whatever that may be in Switzerland. You know, probably just get you one coffee in Switzerland, probably. But they come back, and it's like, it's fine. You sit, we have a chat, and we get up to leave, and it's like literally, they've taken a centimeter off the top of this, what is a vanilla and maybe a chocolate sort of milkshake, and of the donuts they've ordered, it's like they've taken a couple of bites, just a couple of bites. I'm just like, you are not my co-worker if you're going to spend that money and just leave it. I was just like,
you freeloaders.
I know. I was like, what have you done for this? You come in, and she came and was like, can I order something? I was like, no, you cannot. You've expended your sweet money for today, child. How dare you? It's like, they don't actually have that daily type of thing, but it's a weekend, it's Friday. It's just like, no, she's not a co-worker. She does no work. She's just too sweet. And everyone's like, oh, you're so sweet. It's like, no,
I just saw. Yeah, if she asked me for anything, I would be completely powerless and just say yes instantly. She's
got that international accent as well. So when we were in America in the summer, I have family in Canada, and everyone, like, I have my English accent. My wife is Yorkshire. She's got a slight Yorkshire accent, but noticeable enough. My eldest daughter, is English, no accent. You couldn't pinpoint where she's from. This one, full international. American TV and YouTube has a lot to answer for. And we're going around, and people are looking at her like, why is she? Have you, in terms of she's got that, can I have some water? And we're like, she means, can she have some water with a tea? Yeah. And she's like, yeah, water. And everyone's like, yeah, we get what she's saying. It's like, why are you with her? Why? What's the connection?
Your cute adoptive child.
Yeah, pretty much.
The dynamic with the kids is wild. I got all of my power taken. I had this amazing dream with my kids that I wanted to help them learn how to be financially literate as kids. I didn't want them to be the ones that are always begging for things and always doing things. So we would give them very clear jobs and goals, and we'd let them earn money. And then when they wanted something, they could buy it with their own money. I wanted them to understand what it was like to save. I wanted them to see when they run out and have a very clear way to respond and say,
well, there you go. Focus in.
Oh, you've got it. Oh my gosh. Yep. You've got your money. For anyone that's not able to see, we've got actual money.
School resources going to, unfortunately, it's still in dollars. You can see that, like, right. Canva.
It's not the strongest currency right now, but it's okay.
It's a Canva template, but from what you're going and what you're saying is my children get pocket money every month, and they have to do certain things, and I will go, right, here's your money. Like, it's 100 dirhams a month. So
the physical exchange where they receive. Yeah, huge.
And if they then want to do something, if they want anything, it's like, yeah, that's cool. Pay me for it. So they have to physically give me the money. So even though I said at the start of this, I said I made my daughter pay half for Spider-Man 2. It's like, I did, because she wanted it. She had money that she'd earned. She'd had Christmas and birthdays and all sorts of different things. Yeah. So we had physical money. It's like, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to download it. Go and give me the money. So she literally went, there's the money. And it's like, and now she's like, I have none left. I went, that's what happens. The youngest one, not even a spender. We got back after Christmas, and she's got 500 dirhams. She'd saved up in cash. She's gone to the mall. We've gone to the mall, and she's literally taken, these pink 100s that you can see. She's taken these with her so that when we've gone, like, I've gone and paid, and then she stood there and just gone 1, 2, 3 to me in front of this woman in Virgin Megastore. Oh, hilarious. They're like, what is this? It's like, it's the best way to teach them, isn't it?
It's so powerful. And it was working so well at first for us. And I loved it because then I don't have to be the guy that just says no to say no. Like, I don't want to be that parent that's just when they're like, kid wants a new Lego set. If that's really what you want, go for it. Because your daughter that paid for the game is probably going to more likely play that game a much more serious approach. It's not going to waste the time like she would if she didn't have it. Like, it's huge. The value's there. The problem is I married this beautiful Swiss girl. And so my children are freaks of nature in that they have their mother and her beauty and a little bit of that like exotic charm to them. And their grandmother is involved in acting. And their grandmother takes them to auditions and introduces her to their friends. And so my boys went out and got these jobs doing commercials because of my grandmother and because of my wife's beautiful looks that all translated to them. And there was a month where they made as much as I did in several months, these boys, because of their acting. And that made me lose all power, Alex, because I'm like, when you have that much money, children, they just lost all concept. They're like, well, I can just buy it. And I'm like, now I'm fighting a new battle where I'm like, no, I don't want to. So we did a special thing.
Conservatorship.
Basically, actually, almost. In the US, you've got this thing called a Roth IRA, which is just a savings and investment account, but you can only, it's really good because you can deposit into it. It's tax deductible. It's non-tax. Only if you can only take out of it when you retire, or you can take out of it early if you're going to use it on school, buying a home, or medical bills.
Okay.
So that's where we're like, cool, all this money that you just got so lucky and so fortunate and so blessed in your life to have this great opportunity to go do an afternoon of work and then make more money than you ever should as a child. We just put it all into this Roth IRA, and it's hopefully going to grow. And then when they become adults, if they need to make a down payment on a house or they want to go to a really nice college, hopefully it will have grown. They'll be able to pull out. But it completely robbed me of the entire goal and established system I had created to teach my children the value of money, because suddenly it lost all value.
You should have them investing into your company. There we go. Keep it in the family.
That's honestly what I should have been doing. Is like, hey guys, I got an opportunity for you. What do you think? Oh my goodness.
Are they still acting?
Not internationally. Right now, it's just their only job is to learn French, eat lots of pastries, and spend time with the grandparents. What a tough life.
Oh, the occasional bit of skiing thrown in, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, we actually signed up all of our kids. We have a family goal or requirement is that every year someone has to learn something new. Everyone has to pick something new to learn. And so this year it was actually all the cool sports they now have access to. So me and my youngest son are both playing handball, which you just don't have in the US access to very easily. My daughters are both learning ballet. My wife joined a badminton club, and my other son is playing rugby. So similar with you. We're out on the pitch, seeing him get toughened up. And I know this is also another bold statement that might offend a lot of people. I am so glad my son is learning rugby instead of American football. It is so much more fun to watch because you're not stopping every 20 seconds. And the way that they teach, because I played football growing up, and the way that they teach tackling is so much more technique, so much safer, and so much more effective that if he ever does decide to play American football, he's going to be so much more advanced than any of the other kids because he's not learning how to collide. He's learning how to actually stop someone safely for both of you. Like, what an amazing experience.
Completely agree. And it's a great, I think, I mean, for me, I played it all my life since I was 7. And so in terms of team building, character building, in terms of values, all those things that come along with it, camaraderie, it's like, it's amazing.
Oh,
it's still amazing.
Huge.
And it's not,
I'm even learning that in handball. I thought I was joining a little like club, Alex. I thought it was like some city league where kids would just like a bunch of adults would get together twice a week. No, Alex, I accidentally joined the city league. Like I'm on the city team, the actual city team that travels to other cities on a bus to play them. I accidentally signed up for that, and I love it.
Way to commit. There we go. That is a way.
Yeah, we go all in this family.
All right. I'm going to ask you, we're going to get to this. I've enjoyed chatting, but I want to ask you one final question. And that would be best practices. And we've talked about, you've very kindly obviously shared some, but for best practices and tips that you could share with aspiring edtech entrepreneurs or innovators, people that want to start their own business, what would be the best bit of advice or practices and tips that you could offer them to help them?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. This could be its own podcast. But I'm going to share just the rapid fire things that come to mind first. If I were to give advice to someone new going into ed tech, what I would say first is make sure you understand a very real and tangible need that you want to help meet or solve or provide value to, because that is so much more important than just an idea. Education is crazy. Nobody competes for funding. It's one of the few places where you're just funded. And so everyone's competing for attention at the school level. And then as you go down, you start to get to real needs. You start to get to those that are trying to actually solve problems, trying to reach specific kids, trying to save time, trying to solve some technical issue. Discovering what the need is helps you rise above that, because at the high level, it's the same buyer in almost every case that is purchasing I think I saw this report that the average district has access to over 4,000 ed tech tools across every part of their education. And you're competing with all that noise with a single buyer. So finding a way to rise above, like building the thing and having the idea is so easy. Actually executing, actually getting it to be adopted, getting it to be used means that you need to fulfill a real need. And you will only discover that by really interfacing with educators. Beyond that, I would actually go to the side of the teacher, because I think we need more companies and more products that actually come from teachers and more educators. And that's where, I've always been very outspoken about like technology, where I think just having technology is such a waste if you don't use it, because I feel like most schools that acquire amazing technology will use it to decorate their school more than they will use it to effectively achieve outcomes. And that line in between, that gray area that kind of separates those from decorating my school to achieving a specific outcome, often just comes down to an educator having a need or being able to identify how to achieve an outcome or how that outcome will help them meet that need. And I think people that start to think about that and start to recognize those things are the ones that we need to be producing and developing the tools that they can share with those that have the same needs.
A great piece of advice to end with there. Thank you ever so much for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can I ask you one random question? Because you're like a techie person.
Go for it.
What is a piece of technology that you've learned about, seen, or know that's coming in the past year that has you the most excited? And it could be education or not related.
Yeah, Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, have you gotten to play with it yet?
No. So I posted
you gotta go sign up for a demo.
I know. I've not had a chance. To be honest, it's one of those. Am I really that bothered by it? I'm excited to see it, but I'm also it's one of those as well. Like, it's going to be the worst iteration they ever put out. And even though it's still pretty cool, you've seen, exactly. Like, we compare the iPhone that you have now to the iPhone that came out in 2007. It's like streets ahead. So that I am excited about in terms of just the interface. Like, I'm here, I'm going to turn this way, my screen's there, but you could have this on and have multiple screens. It'd be amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Rabbit R1 does next month.
Yes, that's the little AI,
the little red
thing.
one. Yeah. That's gonna be super interesting. And again, first iteration. That the big companies, of course, they're working on it. Of course, they're doing something with it. They're not going to let that sit. It's like, but the same with Apple and their products. They're never the first people to do stuff, but they just seem to do it better than anyone else when they do it. Again, do it.
Oh, that was such a good callback. I thought we were going to end tied, but you're still ahead. Hold on. So I'm going to piggyback your Apple Vision Pro comment, because I think there's some cool stuff there you've got two strategies. All right. You've got the Oculus, the most recent Oculus that comes out with Meta pushing this forward. And you got the Apple Vision Pro. And you got one, Meta on this side is saying, how can we make this as cheap as possible? And they've built an unbelievable piece of hardware for the price. $500 to have pass-through capability, to have as many games and apps support, and the whole metaverse is incredible. And then you got Apple, who's saying, to counter how to make it as cheap as possible, is saying, what's the best possible thing we can build? Yeah. Like what is it, like 7 micron pixel size, where you can fit 64 of your iPhone pixels into one, or 64 pixels from the Apple Vision Pro into one iPhone pixel space. Like, it's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
And I think I share, like, more than the hardware itself, it's the Apple impact it's going to have, like that cascading in the next 18 to 24 months. What's going to happen? Of course, I'm a nerd. So on the side of gaming, what I've always hated about gaming and VR is the movement. Like, you're going into this world to be immersed. And then as soon as you have to push a joystick to move, you lose that immersion. I know there's trackpads and stuff that are out there, but it's all just slide technology. There's nothing that's real. And I truly believe, like, Alex, if I had the funds and the means to do this, is what I would choose to build in my life right now, more than anything outside of education. If someone was like, you're banned from education forever, this is where I'd go. I think AR gaming is the future.
Yeah.
Alex, I think, like, you being able, imagine this, to take the Apple Vision Pro, step outside, and have the pass-through technology reskin your world around you. So imagine playing a zombie game, and you go outside, and it reskins the textures of all the buildings around you and the landscape. And instead of being a bright, beautiful day, you've got this kind of hazy, foggy world, and the buildings are kind of smoking and broken down. And it's just using the pass-through and reskinning it. And then you're able to naturally see what's real world. So, like, cars are glowing, so you're not going to get run over. But you have, like, real zombies coming out around corners, and you have to find tools and resources, but you're out in the real world, interfacing and moving. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, I've seen a few things. We're not far away from that. There's a place here in Dubai. My daughter had a birthday party in November, which was like that. So a massive war zone, and they've all got these headsets on, but they're moving around and shooting and doing. It was ridiculous. So cool. But you can see them on the screen as well. So you can see what they're doing, where they're going to, and like shooting and what they see. So fantastic. Basically, you're wanting to take Pokemon Go on speed, basically, and just take it to another level.
Next level, and democratize it so anyone can step outside.
I saw have access. It was on the news, like they had what I watch, and it was these kids in China playing first world shooters. So they had their phones and these backpacks on, and they were actually playing the shooting game around the school. So it wasn't like the phones and visors, but as in like that type of thing. But they had the phones operating as like visions they could see in these backpacks, so they knew when they'd been tagged and stuff. It was, it's getting there. It's not far off. Not going to be far off from that. It's, like you say, it's going to be an interesting next 18, 24 months, how everything goes. And be exciting.
I'm just so excited to finally see something new, because I felt like we had a decade of incremental improvements where it felt like nothing new came out. And then suddenly in the past 18 months, we have huge leaps forward in AR, VR. We have AI leaps and bounds. I don't know if you just saw Sora announcement that just happened with the video. Like, I am so excited to be a nerd in today's age. It is an exciting time.
And rightly so.
For us.
And rightly so, Skyler. Wow. It's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure chatting with you today. We could go on for much longer, I'm sure. Maybe we'll take this on the road one day. But for now, greatly appreciate your time and knowledge and input and general good chat, old fellow. See, that doesn't sound so villainous, does it? That doesn't sound so devilish.
It doesn't, but it works because you beat me in our weird, misunderstood competition we were having 2-1. So we do need to have a rematch, and I hope it's in person.
Well, I was going to say the next time I'm in Geneva. Actually, it's not going to happen. I've never been to Geneva. Maybe the next time you're in Dubai.
I'll invite you, and I'll catch you in Dubai next time we're there.
Go. That's it. Or maybe you need to set up some sort of educational event in Geneva that we could all flock into.
I love that. All right.
There we go.
You're planting some seeds. I like it.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, you go enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend ahead. And thank you again ever so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself.